Hello, good afternoon. Somebody told me that the good speech should be short and smart, so I hope I will be at least short. Today I wanted to describe some attack which happened last year, but it was really very interesting what happened and how it happened, and there were some lessons learned. So how the small mistakes in the security led to total crash down of one of the large enterprise company, MGM. So first of all, what we do in Cyberark, we are experts on identity security, privilege access management, and we have our own cyber security labs, which are discovering the vulnerabilities, like for example in RDP protocols, authentication protocols, but we are also trying to understand the breaches. And we have also our unit for red team testing, and we do a lot of mitigations after some attack happens. So many times the company gets breached. They usually call analysts like Mandiant, and they call then Microsoft and Cyberark to help them to rebuild the infrastructure. Because if somebody takes your infrastructure, basically you need to build the whole trust in the domain, identity providers, all your passwords from the scratch, from the beginning, and here comes Cyberark in the picture. So we have our own labs just to know the enemy, so we can know how the attackers are thinking and what are the effective strategies to mitigate these attacks for our clients. So let's a little bit discuss more about this MGM. MGM, I don't know how many of you know this company, but they have been all around the news. The breach cost them over $100 million, so it was very expensive. And I will introduce you a little bit more to MGM. They have like 31 big resorts, hotel resorts. They have 46,000 employees. They are doing all these hotels, hospitality. They have many iconic resorts. Does somebody know what kind of hotel does have MGM? Maybe you know it even from this film, Ocean's 11. It's Hotel Bellagio in Las Vegas. They have many hotels, mostly in Las Vegas, and they operate also casinos. So it's a large business. They are a publicly traded company, and this is one of the actors which got hacked. So MGM Hotel, who was the other participant in this hack? Was a group called Scattered Spider. Scattered Spider, they are experts on social engineering attacks. They are using very simple techniques which are generally available to anybody, using open source tools to find out the information about the targets, trying to do some reconnaissance about the accounts, who is doing administrative tasks, what kind of technologies they are using, and so on. And they have like good technical knowledge on how shall be the cloud technologies configured, and so on. So they are mostly in the first phases of the attack, trying to get inside the organization, trying to find the high-profile targets. And the other actor in this attack was Black Cat. Black Cat is providing ransom as a service. So basically you can buy from them some toolkits or directly buy even the ransomware itself that they will do and do all the money extortion from the customers. And they are very effective, very fast, very specialized. They have their own toolkits for it, own personnel. So these three actors were in the picture. So what happened at the very front was that Scattered Spider started to look for the information about their employees. Whom they wanted to target was definitely somebody with admin privileges, and they found the people which are managing Okta, their identity provider, which was used to access applications by their users. So what they used, what kind of technique? It's called OSINT. I don't know how many of you know it. It's an open source intelligence gathering. It's used publicly, even by diplomats, by agencies, it's used by journalists, and so on. So you can basically, when you have a web browser, you have this tool. So you can just open the website OSINT, and it's collecting all the publicly available information from the newspaper, from the public databases, and so on. And so from here, they could get a lot of insights on the MGM itself, what kind of technologies they bought, who is working in that company, and so on. The second thing, what they used, was definitely some also well-known technique, which is basically browsing through Google and trying to find the people which are operating the solutions and putting like specific searches just to get more information what they are doing. This is one of the example. If you put to Google file type you want, on what site, and so on, what name, it will pop up you a lot of information. So still this scattered spider was just using the tools which are generally available to anybody from us, and there is nothing new. So what we basically saw that they found a target victim, which was identity provider operator, who had the admin privileges in Okta. Now, we don't know how they stole and got their passwords. These passwords you can many times when some website was breached and so on, these passwords get extorted, they are publicly available, and sometimes you can connect that this person had this personal email address, and for this personal email address was used these passwords. Many of us reuse the same passwords in many websites, which is the bad practice, but many times you don't need any brute force attack just to crack some password. You just need to get some older password and try that maybe this one will work. So probably this happened, that they found this person, they reused some of the password they already had, but still to get the admin privileges, they needed to go through MFA. So again, on this MFA, what happened basically was they used the technique which has such a strange name, phishing, which means like voice phishing. So they basically called to help desk, and it's recorded that this happened, that they need to disable MFA because this admin told, and the person who was playing him, that he's on the vacation, his phone is dead, and he need to perform some admin task. So please disable my MFA. On the help desk, what happened, they disabled for this login the MFA, and they can just use his login name and password to get to the Okta, to Okta as admin. So it's not complicated technique, no 0 day, no special technical skills. What you need is just all it needs. You need some good context for what you are doing, be a little bit persuasive, and really you can get many times very high privileges within the organization just by using the standard, really normal available techniques as such. So on this phishing, what happened, they really disabled the MFA for verification, and from that moment, what happened, they got the access as an administrators to Okta. Through Okta, as an identity provider, they had the sync with domain, which was on-premise. They had sync with Azure, which was cloud-based, and they were able to get to Okta servers installed in the organization. So basically, they got access to all the infrastructure and applications of this MGM. So what it happened in the background, they not only stayed there, that they got the access, but they mapped even their own identity provider, which is called inbound federations, that they made a trust between two identity providers, their own identity provider. So from that moment, they could have an access, external access to these administrator accounts in MGM. Second thing, what we saw and was really bad, that they were syncing the passwords from domain to the Okta, which is like called credential syncing. So they took the password from AD and synced it to Okta. This way, the attackers had the access to sync server of Okta in MGM organization. They installed a sniffing tool on this MGM sync server, and they were sniffing all the passwords. So they got all the passwords of their domain. At this point, they discovered MGM that there is something wrong, that there is some not authorized software installed on their sync server of Okta, and they started to cut off the access to Okta for this different identity provider, and they rotated the passwords for Okta, but they already had the persistence. They had already access to Azure, they had already access to domains. At that point, really what happened was that there came the Black Cat, and they installed the ransomware on their ESX servers. So they had hundreds and hundreds of ESX servers, and they are not putting encryption to the whole file systems because it's very slow and ineffective. They just decide on which files to encrypt so they can do the most harm as such. So it's very quick, very effective, and what happens that when some servers fell down, it became the cascade. Other servers came down, and at the end what happened that the people could not get with their cards to their rooms. They could not make reservations of the table, they could not check in, check out, they could not make bookings. So it was complete mess for a couple of days when the people could not do anything with that hotel chain. So they were going back to manual to write on the paper who paid for what, and they even disabled the slot machines in casino, so it was totally dark in those hotels down there and quiet. So this is probably in all our IT as we know it, it's very interconnected. Even the systems you wouldn't even tell that they are connected to IT, they are, and one thing can lead to another. So altogether, as an aftermath, it cost them, MGM as public traded organization needed to publish it. It cost them $100 million in losses, in remediation, and so on. They tried to they had the cyber insurance, so they are now having a trial with this insurance company, which claim that they had neglected many of the security controls, and therefore they got hacked. So it's still in the discussion, like who will pay this huge bill, but the damage is done already, and they extorted a lot of data and probably get some ransomware as well paid as a remediation. So it took them about 1 month to rebuild the infrastructure to at some point operating level, but it basically shut down the hotels for almost a week as such. So what were the security failures? Now comes the lessons learned. It was not something you would tell that, okay, that there was some very, very obvious mistake which could have been done. But if you misuse 2-3 things in a row, it can lead really to some big disasters. So first of all, and probably this is very important, is password reuse. We should, as a security practitioners, don't do it. We should every time have a unique password for every website, for every service, and especially the admin accounts should have very unique machine-generated passwords as such, and we shouldn't sync it across the organization. It should be unique just for that one account and for that one time. The second one, social engineering, definitely very good practice. It's to learn to teach your administrators and the normal users that they should be cautious. If some phishing email comes and so on, what they publish on public networks, whom they are responding, and so on. And the third one is really, if somebody is mapping, for example, additional identity provider doing inbound federation, if somebody is accessing some systems, it should immediately raise some alerts. So this is something what didn't ring any bell at that organization. And again, the limited visibility and control over privileged access was totally lacking there. The other thing is about the insecure configurations. Really, there are many lessons learned, especially never do the credential syncing. It's not good practice. We see it a lot in the organizations, but it shall not happen. The credentials should stay in this domain, never go to identity provider. You can do the federation. It's much more secure way. I know it has some limitations, but still it's much more secure way than to do exposing the credentials. And be careful about the inbound federations. Always when somebody is trying to add the admins and so on, it should have some dual controls that somebody will prompt it, the colleagues will approve it, and so on. It shouldn't be done just by one user on one click, and so on. And definitely the detection and response, it took them very long time until they realized that what's going on in their organization, and it was already late. So, but when you don't have a good practice, when you don't know what is normal and good behavior, it's very difficult to detect anything. So we can have the best CM rules and so on, but if you don't have a proper hygiene, what is normal, then it's very difficult to find some incident in it. And we see it in all the organizations where you read about the big hacks, like for example in Czech Republic, Avast and so on. It took them 7 months until they found that somebody had a domain admin account for 7 months. So in the meantime, they had all the detections in the place, but still wasn't able to figure this out. It was not any 0 day, it was nothing, just somebody legitimately stole domain name, username and password. So, and this is something which without proper configurations and benchmarking, it's impossible to do. So what are the security measures you might take in your organization? There are few basic concepts. First of all, we see a lot that the privileged access management, we either see that companies don't have it properly deployed or don't have it at all, but every time somebody is going after some privileged access, and it can be for system level access, it can be for identity provider, it can be for cloud access, it can be even the database, firewalls, VPNs, whatever, should be somehow managed properly by privileged access management systems. The password shall never be exposed, it shall be rotated after the usage, and so on. And the second point we see more and more, it's about removing the standing privileges. If some of your admin has always admin privileges and his account gets hacked, the hacker can immediately use his rights to create backdoor, to go after different configurations, the settings. So it means remove the admin privileges from the users and just elevate them when they need it to have. So it's called zero standing privileges, and it's very popular concept, and with the current technology it's even achievable, that remove them from admin group and add them if somebody authorized them to do some action. Then the second point, it's really increase MFA, really. We don't see many companies with proper MFA installations. Many times they do only for VPN, and there it finishes, sometimes maybe for some office tools, but really for every admin action shall be MFA verification if the user is really dead. And if there is some strange if there is some strange request for MFA, it should be investigated. Somebody wants to change MFA factor, somebody wants to remove MFA verification, if it's coming from the different addresses than usual, and so on. And the third one, what we learned is endpoint security. We see a lot of discussion, antivirus, endpoint security for the desktops as such, but they never touched the desktop. It was on the servers. If your administrator is downloading drivers for your server, how do you know that these drivers are authorized and good ones? If they are running some PowerShell, who is checking like what is run in this PowerShell? What applications are run on domain controllers? So make a hardening and put an endpoint protection on the servers itself. We have also some solution which is called endpoint privilege management, which does the application control and privilege setting for the servers, for the desktops, but really focus as well on endpoint security on the server. So really if somebody gets access to your server, there is many times nothing which can stop them. One thing about the identity provider, we see it more and more popular now with Entra, Microsoft, or Okta, or even Cyberark as identity provider as such. And really good recommendations is use MFA where you can. whenever some application, some more sensitive access, especially on privilege access, always insist every privilege action is MFA verified. The second thing, it's with help desk. I know they need to manage the tickets quickly and so on, but tell them if somebody loses the phone and so on, at least his manager needs to confirm by emails that really this is the case and they need to replace the MFA. Don't let your help desk to somehow assist the user to get rid of the MFA or replace it with something which is unknown. Then the third one is device enrollment. Even in this Okta case, when MGM got breached, always allow admin actions only from secure zones, from somewhere where you trust that this endpoint is certified, authorized to perform the admin tasks. Don't let it to go from any public place, any computer in the organization. It should be only from few secure zones, and verify that this device which is accessing this identity provider is enrolled and trusted. Also about the IDP admin accounts, it should be locked basically and only used by 4-eyes control. It should really have some proper session management, recording what was done on these admin accounts, rotated after the usage. So we should put the proper, really very aggressive security controls over the IDP admin accounts, and definitely put some monitoring in place so you can detect some anomalies in that. So what we do in Cyberark, basically we provide security for identities as such. We help many companies to build effectively their privilege access management program, increase the security of their identities, even introduce the endpoint privilege controls and so on. And we have very guided plan like how to achieve it. We can start with the domain admins, cloud admins, the most critical admin accounts, and go a little bit lower with lower risks like database admins, like firewall admins and so on. And we have very native tools which are helping the companies to achieve this compliance, and definitely do everything very automated, verified by MFA for every request, and you can have all the audit logs and recordings of the sessions and so on. So this is our daily bread, and we would be happy even to discuss with you if you have similar requests like how we can improve the security posture of your company. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I hope this was informative.